Hi, I'm Lyndley O'Dell with the Maryland Healthcare Education Institute. In the next few minutes, we are going to walk through strategies to build trust with your team by being present and visible, especially in this current state of crisis. I'm going to share with you the heightened need for leadership visibility, especially during crisis, and provide several strategies that you can take back and immediately use with your team. Leadership is relationship. Kouzes and Posner, who've been researching and studying leadership for over 30 years, drive this premise home in their research and work in the book, The Leadership Challenge. We build relationships through being present and visible, and therefore creating connections with our team. Depending on your role, right now, that visibility might be virtual. If you find yourself working remotely or working remotely on some days and other days being able to be physically present, regardless of virtual or physically in person, as long as we're making being present and visible with our team a priority, we're working on building that trust and maintaining those relationships. Being visible isn't a might do, it's a must do. Leadership is relationship, and now more than ever, we're called on to be visibly there for our teams. The reality is there are times when we're not always going to be able to be visible. Whether we are running from back-to-back meetings or we have something urgent and emergent that pops up unexpectedly, those things will happen. And some days they may happen more than others. So if we find those occurring, we have to make sure we're flexible in our ability to maintain touch points and communication. So for example, if I have back-to-back meetings that I absolutely have to be at, I need to make sure I'm communicating my schedule to my team, whether that communication happens in person, through a text message, email, or other mechanism. Maybe even at the daily huddle, I can set the tone and share with my team what my schedule is going to be and when I'll be available to be there for them. I need to explain why my team may not physically see me, and then before and or after those meetings, make sure I'm checking back in with them, I'm asking questions, and I'm providing support. One of the first steps in refocusing our visibility, especially in a time of crisis, is to be vulnerable and recognize and admit there's times when we can't be everywhere at once. That feeling of juggling multiple demands, multiple meetings is completely normal. And unfortunately, we can't clone ourselves to be in more than one place at once. So here's what we can do. We can make it a priority and do everything we can to be present at the start time of huddles. This sends a message to our team that we're there for them and we're supporting them, and we can communicate those messages. We can also make every effort to be present during the peak times of each shift. We may not always be able to predict those peak times. However, if we do our best to know when our unit or department might be a little bit busier than other times, that's what we can do to build trust. We can also be present during those off shifts or on weekends. We know our team better than anyone else, and if we can be strategic and when we're on our unit or in our department to make sure we're interacting with all shifts and as many of our team members as possible, that will help us build trust. As I mentioned, if we're in roles where we physically aren't able to be present in person, we want to embrace technology and think about those opportunities where we can still be present, even if it's in a virtual world. Doing a time audit allows you to pause and reflect on exactly how you're spending your time and perhaps find opportunities to be more visible. If you look at your calendar, where you're spending your time, and you find that you don't have any time specifically dedicated to being visible, to being present at huddles, to being in the unit or department during those peak shifts, we want to make sure that we're rethinking about those things. That may be a red flag. In a crisis, we need to think differently about where our time is spent. Perhaps we should have conversations with our upline or senior leader to determine which meetings we still should be attending versus which meetings might be canceled or postponed, or which meetings we might be able to send another representative in our place. And while we all need to stay up to date on email and other electronic communications, perhaps we think about catching up on those during less busy times on our unit or in our department. We can take advantage of connecting with our team by walking through the unit and department, catching staff during a break, and being anywhere our team is. We also can't forget there is power in listening. When we talk about being present and being visible, sometimes that just means we listen. We're in our staff meetings, we're asking open-ended questions, and we're truly paying attention to how our team is responding. We practice mindful listening. We're listening in at those service line meetings. We're making sure if there's information being shared that needs to make its way back to my team, we're doing so. Maybe it's even listening in the cafeteria or break rooms. And again, we're taking that opportunity to embrace technology. It might be informal check-ins. It might be sending a text message to some of our team leaders, some of our shift coordinators, seeing what they need, how they're feeling, and what you might be able to do for them as their leader. When we are visible and communicating effectively to our team, we want to make sure we're being really clear in that communication. General Stan McChrystal with the McChrystal Group has shared 3 strategies that can help ensure we're communicating effectively. When we are visible and communicating effectively to our team, we want to make sure that first, we communicate what we know in the moment, and that we acknowledge what we know in the moment may change. So what we know at the beginning of the shift may be completely different until the end of the shift. If we're being clear and direct, our team will trust us. We're not sugarcoating anything. We're not beating around the bush. We're telling our team, here's what I know right now. Second, we want to communicate what we believe. We want to acknowledge this might be very difficult and challenging. This could be the first time anyone is going through this unknown world that we're experiencing, and we're going to get through it. As a leader, we have to ensure we're maintaining that inspiration and drive that we're going to get through this. And lastly, communicate with inspiration. We want to reflect back on our organization's values. We want to explain the why to our team, and we want to make sure our team understands what we're all about. We want to share, here's what we value: patient safety, high quality care, service excellence. And through this tough, challenging time, we're going to get through it and come out okay. These strategies can help you navigate this challenging time. Brene Brown has a great quote: "Staying vulnerable is a risk we have to take if we want to experience connection." Leadership is relationship. And now more than ever, we have to make sure we're creating and maintaining those connections to get through this. Thank you so much for your service and all you're doing each and every day. If you'd like additional resources, please feel free to contact us. Thank you.